F1 ቪዛ የተማሪ ቪዛ ትራምፕ አስተዳደር የኢሚግሬሽን ኢላማ ካነጣጠረባቸው ውስጥ ለትምህርት ወደ አሜሪካ የሚመጡ ተማሪዎች ዋነኞቹ ናቸው። በክፍያም ሆነ በነፃ ትምህርት ወደ አሜሪካ ለመምጣት አመልክተው ከዩኒቨርሲቲው ተቀባይነት ያገኙበትን I-20 ፎርም ይዘው ሴቪስ ክፍያ በI-901 ፎርም ከፍለው ቪዛ በዲኤስ 160 ፎርም አመልክተው በብዙ ውጣ ውረድ የመጡ ተማሪዎች የተለያዩ የኢሚግሬሽን ችግሮች ይገጥሟቸዋል። ቪዛቸው ይቃጠላል፣ ፓስፖርታቸው ጊዜ ያልፍበታል፣ ወዘተ በርካታ ችግሮች። እነዚህን ችግሮች በአግባቡ የተገነዘበው ዩኤስ አፍሪካ ኢንስቲትዩት ሆስተን ቴክሳስ በሚገኘው ታሪካዊው የጥቁሮች ዩኒቨርሲቲ ሂውስተን ቲልትሰን ተማሪዎችን ሰብስቦ ግንዛቤ እንዲያገኙ ባለሙያዎችን ጋብዞ አወያይቷል። ዲያስፖራ ሚዲያ በቦታው ተገኝቶ ነበር።
ሰላም ጤና ይስጥልኝ። ታዲያስ በላይ ባላለሁ የዩኤስ አፍሪካ ኢንስቲትዩት ኤክስኪዩቲቭ ዳይሬክተር ነኝ። የምንሰራው ከአሜሪካ ውስጥ ካሉ የትምህርት ተቋማቶች ጋር፣ ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች ጋር፣ ኮሌጆች ጋር በተገናኘ ኢሚግራንት ተማሪዎች ኢንተርናሽናል ተማሪዎችን ማገዝ ነው። ያ ማለት የኮሌጅ ወይም ደግሞ የዩኒቨርሲቲ ኃላፊዎች አመራሮች ጋር አንድ ላይ በመሆን ፖሊሲዎችን፣ የተለያዩ ሪሶርሶችን በገንዘብ ድጋፍ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ የተማሪዎች ለኢሚግራንት ተማሪዎች ተብሎ የሚዘጋጅ ሴንተሮች ሊሆኑ ይችላሉ፣ ወይም ደግሞ የህግ ድጋፍ እንዲያገኙ ካምፓሳቸው ውስጥ እዛው ዩኒቨርሲቲ ውስጥ ኮሌጅ ውስጥ እያሉ እንዲያደርጉ ነው የምንሰራው ስራ። ያን ሞር ኢንስቲትዩሽናል ኢንጌጅመንት አይነት ነገር ነው የምንሰራው። ዛሬ ሂውስተን ቲልትሰን ዩኒቨርሲቲ የሚባል የሂስቶሪካሊ ብላክ ኮሌጅ ወይም ደግሞ HBCU ከሚባሉት ውስጥ አንዱ ነው። እነሱ ጋር ኮላቦሬት አድርገን አጠቃላይ ቴክሳስ ውስጥ ከኢሚግሬሽን ጋር በተገናኘ በተለይ ተማሪዎችን እነዚህ ወረቀት የሌላቸውን የምንላቸው በተለይ ወይም ደግሞ ዶክመንትድ የሚባሉት ተማሪዎች፣ ከተለያየ አፍሪካ ሀገር የመጡ ተማሪዎችን፣ ኢንተርናሽናል ተማሪዎችን በሚመለከት የተለያዩ ህጎች ወጥተዋል እና አንደኛው ህግ ቴክሳስ ውስጥ ያሉ ተማሪዎች በተለይ እነዚህ ዶክመንትድ የሆኑ ተማሪዎች፣ ወረቀት የሌላቸው ተማሪዎች 3-4 እጥፍ እንዲከፍሉ ከዚህ በፊት የድሪም አክት የሚባል ነበረ። እሱን ሪቮክ አድርገው ወይም ደግሞ እሱን ካንስል አድርገው አዲስ የመጣ ህግ ነው። የትራምፕ አድሚኒስትሬሽን ስቴቱን ከሶ ስቴቱ ደግሞ ባሉ እዚህ ቴክሳስ ውስጥ ባሉ የሃየር ኤጁኬሽን ወይም ደግሞ ዩኒቨርሲቲና ኮሌጆች ፐብሊክ ሃየር ኤጁኬሽን ሲስተም ውስጥ ያሉትን ልጆቹን 3-4 ጊዜ እጥፍ ቻርጅ ለማድረግ ነው የወሰኑት። ከዚያ ባሻገር ደግሞ እነኚህ ተማሪዎች ከዚህ በፊት ኢንስቴት ቱዊሽን የሚባል ወይም ደግሞ በዚህ በስቴት ለስቴቱ ሬዚደንት የሚሰጠው የቱዊሽን ፕሪቪሌጅ የላቸውም ከዚህ በኋላ። ያንን በሚመለከት ነው ዛሬ ፕሮግራም አንደኛው ፕሮግራም የመጀመሪያው ሴሽን የነበረው። 2 አቶርኒዎችን ይዘን መተን በጣም በተለይ ቴክሳስ ውስጥ ከዩኒቨርሲቲ ኦፍ ቴክሳስ ኦስትን ጀምሮ በተለያዩ ተቋማቶች ሲሰሩ የነበሩ ትልቅ ልምድ ያላቸው 2 ባለሙያዎችን ይዘን መተን ነበረ። እሱም ደግሞ እንዳለቀ ሁለተኛው ሴሽን ላይ ሌላ እንዲያውም በአጋጣሚ አፍሪካዊት ወይም ደግሞ ከናይጄሪያ የመጣች ግን እዚህ ሀገር የተማረች ጠበቃ እሷን ይዘን መተን ነበረ። እሷም ከተለያዩ የቪዛ ማደስ ጋር ወይም ሪኒዋል ጋር በተገናኘ በተለይ በኤፍ1 ቪዛ ለሚመጡ ተማሪዎች ኢንተርናሽናል ተማሪዎች መረጃ ሼር አድርጋለች። ይሄን ሀገር ለቀው ቢሄዱ ሪኒዋል እናደርጋለን ብሎ ከማድረጋቸው በፊት ቢሄዱ የሚያጋጥማቸውን አጠቃላይ ውጤት እነሱን ነገሮች ነው በግልጽ ዛሬ ያስቀመጠችላቸው። ከወርክ ፐርሚት ጋር በተገናኘ እዚህ ሀገር የሚመጡ ልጆች ወይም ተማሪዎች ወይም ኢንተርናሽናል ተማሪ ሊሆኑ ይችላሉ፣ ወይም ደግሞ የተለያየ ኢሚግሬሽን ስታተስ ያላቸው ሊሆኑ ይችላሉ። ከወርክ ፐርሚት ጋር በተገናኘ ያንንም ደግሞ መረጃ ሸራርጋልናለች። ሶስተኛው እና የመጨረሻው ተማሪዎቹ ስታተሳቸውን አጅስት ማድረግ ቢፈልጉ ወይም ደግሞ አጅስትመንት ኦፍ ስታተስ የሚባለው በተለያየ መልኩ በስራ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ H1B ቪዛ አመልክተው ሊሆን ይችላል፣ ወይም ደግሞ በቤተሰብ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ በሜሬጅ ሊሆን ይችላል። በተለያዩ መልኩ ያሉትን ስታተሳቸውን እንዴት ነው አጀስት ማድረግ የሚችሉት ልጆች ወይ ደግሞ ተማሪዎች የሚለው ነገር ጥሩ አድርጋ መረጃ ሰጥታልናለች። ሌላው አንድ የረሳሁት ነገር የመብታቸውን እንዲያውቁ ተማሪዎች ኖ ዩር ራይትስ የሚባለውን ትሬኒንግ በመጀመሪያው ሴሽን ላይ ሁለተኛው ሴሽን ላይ ተሰጥቷል። እሱም እንግዲህ ተማሪዎቹ መብታቸውን እንዲያውቁ የዩኤስ ኮንስቲትዩሽን ስር ያሉ አሜሪካ ሲቲዝን ብቻም ሳይሆን እዚህ ሀገር ውስጥ ላሉ ምን ያህል ጠቃሚ እንደሆኑ የኢሚግሬሽን ኢንፎርስመንት ኤጀንቶች ቢመጡ ወይም ደግሞ አይስ በተለምዶ የምንላቸው ቢመጡ ካምፓስ ውስጥ ምን አይነት ቅድመ ጥንቃቄ ማድረግ እንዳለባቸው ወይም ደግሞ ዶርማቸው ውስጥ ወይም ደግሞ ተከራይተው የሚኖሩበት ቤት ውስጥ ቤታቸውን መክፈት እንደሌለባቸው የኢሚግሬሽን ጠበቆችን ወይም ደግሞ እርዳታ መፈለግ እንዳለባቸው አጠቃላይ ከዚህ ከኖው ራይትስ ጋር በተገናኘ በዚሁ መረጃ ተሰጥቷል። ከዚህም ጋር ተያይዞ እንግዲህ የትምህርት ቤቱ አመራሮችም ነበሩ፣ የቫይስ ፕሬዚደንቱም ነበረ፣ ዲኑም ነበረ። እነሱም ይህንን ሞር ኢንስቲቱሽናላይዝ አድርገን ሪሶርስ ፖሊሲያቸውን በዚሁ አስተካክለው እነዚህ ልጆች ትምህርታቸውን በአግባቡ ጨርሰው ጤናማ ህይወት ጥሩ ህይወት እንዲኖሩ ሰፖርት እናደርጋለን ብለዋል። አጠቃላይ ይህን ይመስላል። የሚቀጥለው ጊዜ ደግሞ ቨርቹዋል ሴሽን ይኖረናል። ናሽናል ነው የሚሆነው። እሱም በዚሁ በተለያዩ ኤችቢሲዩ የሚማሩ ከአፍሪካ፣ ካሪቢያን፣ ሳውዝ ሴንትራል አሜሪካን ካንትሪ የሚመጡ ብላክ ተማሪዎች ላይ ነው ትኩረት አድርገን የሚሰራው። እንግዲህ እሱን ለምንድን ነው እዛ ላይ ትኩረት አድርጋቸው የሚሰሩት ጥያቄ ካለ የተለያዩ ችግር ከሪሶርስ ጋር በተገናኘ ይችላል፣ ከፖሊሲ ጋር በተገናኘ ሊሆን ይችላል። ከአፍሪካ በተለምዶ የጥቁር ሀገሮች ከምንላቸው የሚመጡ ጥቁር ተማሪዎች ላይ የሚደርሰው በደል የሚደርሰው ደግሞ ትሪትመንት በጣም አስቀያሚ ስለሆነ ያንን አድሬስ ለማለት እንደዚህ ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች ጋር ተቋማቶች ጋር የምንሰራው ሃዋርድ ዩኒቨርሲቲ ዲሲ ያለውን ታውቁታላችሁ። ሌሎች ስፔርመንስ ኮሌጅ፣ ሞርሃስ ኮሌጅ፣ እዚህ ቴክሳስ ውስጥ ያሉ ኤችቢሲዎች ብዙዎቹ ጋር እንሰራለን። ኢትዮጵያኖች የሆናችሁም በእነዚህ ትምህርት ቤቶች ካላችሁ ወይ ች ካላችሁ ኮንታክት ልታደርጉ ትችላላችሁ። ዩኤስ አፍሪካን ኢንስቲትዩት info@usainstitute.org እዛ ላይ ኢሜል ብታደርጉልን ፎሎ አፕ አድርገን የምትማሩ ትምህርት ቤት ጋር አንድ ላይ መስራት እንችላለን። ግን አብዛኞቹ ትምህርት ቤቶች የኛ ፓርትነሮች ናቸው። በዚህ ሁኔታ ላይ መስራት እንችላለን ማለት ነው። አመሰግናለሁ።
And continue to uplift to the universities if they have questions that the AG said DACA is lawfully present right now, so folks with DACA should be eligible for in-state tuition. We definitely want to stop any type of collaboration, collusion with USCIS. Higher education institutions are there to educate students. Their duty is to students and student body, not to collude or support USCIS. And then, like we said, if you have any questions, I'm like, well, I'm an admissions officer. I don't know what this student has given me. Reach out to a trusted attorney. Reach out to the coalitions that are out there to help you navigate through that rather than reaching out to USCIS. Step-by-step instructions to students when things happen, when things shift, which they will, but really providing that clear, consistent standards, step-by-steps of what students need to do. Definitely what we've recommended is that folks actually designate a staff member within the universities or colleges to work on the issue specifically. Because it's been really disheartening to hear students say, I go to my admissions office, I go to the registrar's office, and no one can answer the questions because no one knows what to do. So definitely having someone designated there. Again, publish everything clear. Y'all are students, right? You go into the website and try to figure out, okay, what does it mean? How does this apply to me? What are the changes? And so we strongly recommend that institutions actually publish it very explicitly in their website so that students, future and current, can actually get right information so they're not lost trying to guess what's happening. Communicate properly and then offer multiple pathways. I know this might not apply to Houston Tiltson, but as things shift, I think the challenge that I would like to give to the universities, right, is what are the other pathways that we can create for students Because at the end of the day, they continue to be our student body, and we're still accountable to them, from my perspective. We shared a little bit, right? There's something. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Can you speak a bit to citizens who would like to be allies and perhaps stand in the breach for some of our immigrant neighbors who don't necessarily have the privilege to speak aloud?
I think this is the moment when we need to stand up as allies, right, and actually unite. From my experience, I've been holding every 2 weeks calls with community, majority undocumented youth and allies. And what my experience has been is that people are scared. People don't know, they're just scared to even speak out or even share their stories. And so for me, how do we step up as allies, right? How do we push our universities, our professors, even the student body of like, let's speak out on this issue. As a formerly undocumented student, I think having a sense of like, oh, I'm alone in this and no one's gonna speak up is really scary. And I remember 20 years ago when we started organizing and people started uniting, right, and allies were like, I'm with you. It was like from day to night. I felt like, okay, someone's got my back, we can organize. And yeah, interestingly, because of that organizing, because of allies like Barbara and many others within UT was one of the model universities across the nation on how to welcome undocumented youth 20 years ago. Sadly, things have shifted, right? But for my sense is like, how do, US citizens actually speak up?
Just knowing that there were professors that were willing to support them was just so incredible to them. So I think a support system, because now thank goodness not this university, this college, but they've eliminated the DEI office. And so the spaces where students went, where they actually felt some sort of a communal space, a place, those have all been eliminated. So I think support from administrators and professors is really important. The other thing is that, for example, of course, it made no sense. One thing I'll say about when we did the hearing on these regulations, these rules, not a single person from the coordinating board showed up. We came and we spoke to an empty room, and there was a staff member recording it. That's how little they cared about what we said. And then they took what we said and turned it around to do the worst thing we could imagine. But one thing that has happened on this is that when we were opposing the repeal of this law, we had allies come and read the testimony of undocumented students that were afraid to come. So showing up for hearings and coming to spaces where now, more than ever, undocumented immigrants are afraid to come.
So now we go into resources, right? This is, I hope that, you take anything away, right? If you know of anyone, right, maybe friend, sibling that has been incorrectly classified, right, that they have DACA or they have lawful presence and they've been wrongly classified, you can contact us, and we'll have another slide where you can actually grab our QR code to contact us, but definitely let us know. Any questions about, like, you might be like, well, I don't know if my friend or me or X person has lawful presence. We strongly urge you to go contact a trusted immigration lawyer. ALI is one of the best websites, right? You actually can go in there and put a zip code, and it pulls up lawyers within your area, so that's a really good resource. And if you're worried about ICE on campus, which I think that's one of the biggest worries across the nation, I also provide, and I'll send it to Patty as a presentation, but there's a link, right, where there's actual step-by-step of what your university can do if ICE comes to your university. And I'll provide a little more in a second. We put together this toolkit for undocumented youth, right? Has anything from students trying to do a cost analysis, right? And like, can I actually afford college? If I cannot afford college now here, where else do I need to look at to go to college? And so it's a great tool, lots of scholarships, very straightforward information for folks who are undocumented and who are trying to still go to college and figure it out. Here is also a parent's resource. When I was undocumented, and to this day, my mom is really involved in my life, but she wanted to know, what do I do as a parent? And so we put together 2 different ones. One is for high school parents of high school students, And the other one is parents of college students. So if you want to share it with folks that you might know, please do so. It can, just lots of information on like, what do I do? What questions do I need to be asking? Where do I need to push? What do I need to be demanding? Because they have rights to demand as a parent of a student on what the university should be doing. And this is so Barbara mentioned, right, we have a checklist, we have a fact sheet. This is where you can find it. It's a link tree that we put together from the Education for All Texans. But if you're wondering, like, okay, I want to check out this checklist because maybe a friend of mine is trying to figure out if they're lawfully present, go check it out. It has tons of information. Majority of the info is only English and Spanish, but it's there. And then this is one of the resources that I know when I spoke with Tadios, he was really interested. If you click on the link, and I'll share it, it basically provides, it's something I would like to put together by AFT National Immigration Law Center on like, this is the protocols that universities should have if ICE comes. Bottom line, no ICE agent should be allowed into a college or university, period. For the students who are here, and even for the professors, right? You have a right to remain silent. And the ILC Know Your Rights red card is something that I recommend recommend for everybody. It's a red card that basically says, I have a right to remain silent. I will not speak to you until I have my attorney by my side. And so we recommend this in this day and age for everyone, including citizens, because we know that ICE is coming for everyone. Right? And so even though now I'm a US citizen, I carry the card now because now that's my way of protecting myself. And we've known and we've seen that because of this card, people have been prevented from being detained or deported. And so if you can check it out, this one does have different languages. So you want to check out that one. And you can even Google it, right? ILRC, right? Know Your Rights red card, and you should be able to pull it up, print it out. But that's one of the easiest and most concrete things that folks can have, because you have a right to remain silent. You have a right not to speak to any immigration lawyer if they come.
If ICE produces a warrant, does it have to be a warrant with a named individual?
Yes.
Okay.
A named individual. They can't just have, they have to have named individuals, okay? They can't, a search warrant, I'm pretty sure it has to be named individuals. In other words, I have to go back. Of course, the Supreme Court is like cutting back on all of this, but I guess if you had a poultry plant where they thought that they had a tip that everybody that was there was undocumented, but like at a university or at a place where they're looking for a specific person, or they come to your apartment, they need a warrant for a specific person. And what we say there is that if they say they have a warrant, they need to push it under the door, because then you can see a warrant for that person. That person should probably come out, because you also don't want them to be breaking down your door. And on the campuses, you want to have one designated person that is trained on how to do this stuff.
My name is Kudus, and I'm the African Student Association President right here in Houston campus. Thank you so much for coming, and it's been quite insightful. So my question is, thank you, you visited this campus. It's a private institution, and then we are shielded from most of this investment. And then we have a very large numbers of international students right on campus, and also immigrant students also. So, being an international student, we are on the status. We all know most of it is F1 visa. So, at what point do you think, as international students, they might need to shield up to this level of knowing, being in Texas, of knowing what is necessary? Is it possible for an F1 student to become an unlawful presence, or probably go on to become lawful presence? How can that come to be? And as an immigration lawyer, how many encounters have you seen with F1 status change, and how can that happen also?
Okay, so I think someone's going to be talking about this, but The F1 students that could benefit from the Texas DREAM Act are students that went to high school here. Okay, so there are F1 students who came here on F1s and then they went to high school here. Then you would have qualified and then you could have like let your F1 student visa lapse, but now you have to be lawfully present. But in order to go to school on an F1 visa, there are totally different rules. I mean, I think the risk for F1 students, and this is not to get everyone on an F1 or a J1 visa afraid, is to really understand the know your rights portion. Because as you probably read, there have been arrests of F1 and J1 students primarily to try to suppress free speech and First Amendment rights. So, you know, the student, and that's the point. The point is so that you can't exercise your right of dissent, in my opinion, in this country. And that's where I think we've seen mostly the arrests and the of students that are on those kinds of visas. But where it comes is if someone's F1 student visa expires, then you are in unlawful status. And that's when you kind of begin to have different problems. But I think that's better addressed with the next speaker who works more with with that sort of stuff, which I don't do anymore.
We'll go to the second session, which is very much focusing on the questions that the president of the African Student Association was raising. Kudus was talking about F1 visa and how to adjust your status. So we have someone joining us from California.
I said for some African countries, like when you renew your visa, due to the new government, I heard that the visa is only valid for 3 months. So let's say I renew my visa now, right?
Yeah.
And then in the next 3 months, it's gonna get expired again.
I mean, it is possible. I think, Trump is trying to do that. I can't tell you that I know how it is working in practice right now. But if you're on F1, I don't think you have to worry about that. It's based on countries, right? So I think right now with Trump, he did the visiting visa. I think that's been reduced. No longer multiple entry, only single entry. No longer 5 years.
Mm.
So, but I haven't seen anything that's been set up for F1 students in that regard. I think we still have, for Nigeria and the US, we still have 2 years.
US African Institute, we're a national organization. We work within the intersection of immigration and higher education, making sure that students from Africa and from the Caribbean countries have a welcoming environment. And then we work with institutions across the country, not only in Texas, in California and the DMV area. We have coalition of universities and college. And also we work with the immigrant community. So we do a lot of policy work. So I know the political environment today, and this day it's not easy for us, even for citizens in this country, right? So we just want to be supportive of each other. That's it. Okay, so and then before we end up our conversation today, I just want to say thank you to the Diaspora Media Network. Diaspora Media Network is also a national media organization. They do amazing work in terms of uplifting the voice of immigrant communities from Africa and from other parts of the world.